Blog Talk Radio.
Yes, you are now listening to the sound of the shofar blowing. The shofar is a ram's horn that is blown to inspire the people to do their thing. The shofar is blown to coordinate a queen or a king. You say the shofar is being blown to call us to listen deeply to ourselves and listen deeply to our body. This is Faux Show Holistic Health on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Shophar from Faux Show Energy Work, and my guest today is Ivy Lee. Ivy Lee is an acupuncturist, a licensed acupuncturist, herbalist, energy healer. She specializes in women's health, fertility, pain relief, stress management, and she's also the next guest on Faux Show Holistic Health. So let's go ahead and bring her on, Miss Ivy Lee.
Greetings. Thank you for inviting me for this conversation.
Peace, sis. Yeah, oh, definitely. No question. It's an honor to have you on. How you doing today?
I'm well. The weather's getting warmer here, so it's always nice. How are you doing?
Oh, things are going well. We're actually, so I'm south of you. I'm in San Diego, and we're having like a little early. We have this thing called June gloom normally, and we're actually having May gray because it's like the middle of May and it's already here. It's like, you know, they don't show this on the San Diego infomercials and everything, you know, that we go through this usually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here all the roses have been blooming. I've been making rose water for my garden, so it's been really sweet.
Dope, nice. Yeah, I see on your Instagram that you've been, mixing, doing work and everything with getting out into nature, which is very important.
Yes.
Powerful. Well, for those of you, family that tune in regularly, and I see some new people as well. You know that what I do is I'll leave some space at the end for you, Ivy, to tell us what's next for you, what you got coming up, and then also we'll leave the links and everything so they can check out your website and get the backstory on you. But I like to, since we only have 30 minutes, I usually like to just go ahead and jump in. So let me go ahead and get the first question here for you. What I want to ask is, like, I know that your background is like in corporate America. Your background was like in corporate America, like with tech and finance. And so the first thing I want to ask is, what are the three treasures? And then also, in modern society, how are the three treasures of women affected?
So, yeah, what you mentioned, I worked in corporate before my work now in Chinese medicine. I grew up with Chinese medicine from my family. My family is from Taiwan, so I was always immersed in it, but had a corporate career. And from the amount that I worked and the stress levels, it got me really out of balance. And I really turned to the traditional practices from my family to rebalance. And, that was sort of when I realized, that was the right path that I had to go down. So I switched my career, and it's given me a really interesting understanding of the modern world, the modern lifestyle, because of how deeply I was in it. When we talk about the three treasures, we talk about like the Chinese medicine terms of qi, blood, and jing. Essentially, this is like what makes you a living being. And a key thing in the modern lifestyle, which is actually a huge influence for fertility, is that we are depleting our resources at a very accelerated rate. One of the key factors of fertility that I see in clients who come in is stressors on life. That could be, work stress. It could be, stress in relationships or family. It could be stress in the sense of like having a busy lifestyle, running from one thing to another, really packing your schedule with projects and social activities. These things create a high level of activity on the body that sort of depletes our resources at a faster rate. And, I see that is a key thing of modern life that we are experiencing now that wasn't necessarily the case, decades ago. Life now is happening at a faster rate, and that is affecting our fertility.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, these different, like you say, these stressors and everything, and depleting our resources at a rate that we're not replenishing them. And this society is kind of based on a model that it's not something that we can keep, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, something that I talk about a lot with my clients is balance. In Chinese medicine, we don't pathologize things or see things as necessarily good or bad, but we understand how do things function in relation to each other, right? Yin and Yang is relative. And in modern life, we are often at this imbalance, doing too much activity and not resting enough. Where we're packing our schedule with movement from this concept of productivity equaling value, which is not necessarily true, and not having enough time for rest and rejuvenation and restoration of the body. When we think about fertility or pregnancy, that is the body giving excess resource to create a baby. But if a woman or man is depleted within themselves and not able to function optimally themselves, then, creating another human being can be difficult. So addressing those stressors, addressing, the things on how we structure our lives and how we go about day to day in terms of, the pace of our schedule, in terms of, our sleep, the amount of movement we have, whether it's too little or too much, and any sort of like stressor on our bodies is one of the key things.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, what you were just saying there about, that was a new way of me actually looking at it, but, pregnancy is really like the excess of resources for that baby. So it's really having to be from a state of abundance. And we know that right now we've been more or less given a scarcity model that starts, on a bigger level, but then it trickles down to many aspects of life where it's a scarcity model, whether it be scarcity of resources, whether that be money or time. For a lot of people, we're pulling on the scarcity model, and that can deplete us.
Right. And so, one of the things that I pose to, people who come in is, what do you need to feel nourished and supported, in life? Because that is different for every person, and that is so necessary for us to have good sleep, good digestion, good elimination, the basics of life. And how do we structure our lifestyle and in a way that is conducive to our well-being? I think fertility is not just a question for if you want to conceive, but I think that everyone should be interested in fertility, because essentially that means that you are optimizing your health, that you're functioning at your best.
I agree with you, Ivy. I mean, I feel like I say, whether our goal is to have, what was the lady with the kids in the shoe or whatever, where she didn't know what to do. Like if you don't want to have like a gang of kids or even one kid, but still being, having that virility, having that the abundance of chi that it takes in order to have a healthy child. Being in that state normally is just, I think, like you say, that's an optimized way of being. So I totally agree with you there. And let me ask you this, like, can you break down a little bit more for those, that are listening in layman's terms, like yin and yang, and what you were talking about, the whole balancing thing? I think for some people that may be a newer concept or whatever. So can you go a little deeper into that for them?
Sure. Yin and yang are attributes that we can, relate to things in relation to each other. So, for example, you could say the sun is yang and the moon is yin. The sun is more bright, warm, active, whereas the moon is more cooling, is darker, it's more soft. But everything is in relation. For example, you could say that, beef is yang compared to grapes, right? Because meat is more dense, it's more warming compared to grapes, which is a fruit and more cooling. However, grapes are considered yang compared to watermelon. Both of them are fruits, but grapes are, in terms of energetic temperature, more warming to the body versus watermelon, which is very cooling. So it's a yin and yang is a way to understand things in relation to each other. And this concept, it comes up a lot with diet and nutrition. When I look at diet and nutrition, it's very customized for each person. With fertility or just health optimization, we're looking to balance the body. So does this person run hot or do they run cold? Maybe certain parts of their body are more hot and cold. Are they prone to, more red rashes or dry skin? We see what's going on with the body and then prescribe different foods to help balance out the body.
I love it. Yeah, that's powerful. And what's really key, I think, for people, for the listeners to take in what you were saying there is that it's relational. I know before I started studying Chinese medicine, my idea of yin and yang was that, like something say like the Incredible Hulk, he's yang, but it's relational. The Incredible Hulk is yang compared to SpongeBob, but as those of us who are like comic book heads who watched the 2 movies ago, the Avengers, he wasn't so young compared to Thanos. Within the first 5 minutes, the Hulk got dealt with very quickly, so it's all relational, right, like you're saying, so that's very key to take in. Let's break down a little bit, if you can, for us, let's see, like the major yin organs and what are their roles in fertility, like, the liver, kind of ruling the ovaries and the menstrual cycle or stuff like that. So can you kind of give us a little overlay of like the 5 major yin organs and how they play a role in fertility?
Sure. With fertility, balance is key. And, very often these days in this, modern lifestyle, I see a lot of women that are deficient. And by deficient, I mean that the balance of the organs or of the qi and blood could be strengthened. There could be benefit of having more of it. The liver is, the wood element. And this organ system, in the Chinese medicine understanding, is a little different than the Western medicine understanding. We're talking about an organ system that, relates to different physical attributes as well as emotional and spiritual attributes. So the liver is very affected by stress or heavy emotions. And, when there is stress in the body, we say that it causes the qi to stagnate. So instead of having a smooth flow of qi, the qi, kind of knots or stagnates and doesn't flow smoothly in the body. This is a very common thing that we see in the modern life. People who, work a lot or have stressful work. The heart is another organ system that is really important because the emotions play a key role in fertility. In Chinese medicine, in the literature, there is a channel called the Bao Mai that connects the heart to the uterus. So this is, written about in the traditional text. And it's this understanding that the emotions have an influence on the reproductive system. So, besides addressing the physical body in terms of level of activity, diet and nutrition, any sort of toxins influencing the body, it's important to address the emotional state as well. Any traumas that might have, been lodged in there, where is the joy in life, how are relations going, all of that is very important.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, the roots and branches, right? You know, and some of those emotional factors are some of the roots sometimes to the physical things that show up. It makes sense.
Yes, in Chinese medicine, we see the physical and emotional as very interrelated. So when treating things, we always look at all the layers and treat things from different angles. The spleen is another yin organ, and the spleen is the earth element, so it's related to our nourishment. Diet and nutrition plays a role in this, and also emotionally, how we feel supported. Oftentimes worry or overthinking is an imbalance of this organ. And, these days when we are so busy in life, often we don't feel supported. We don't feel nourished or grounded or centered. And so, looking at this from a physical perspective as well as a energetic perspective is key, especially if there's thoughts about, children and raising a family. Having good support for you and for your life is very important for that.
Makes sense.
And another yin organ is the lung organ system. And, for this one, of course, it has to do with your breath, with the respiratory system, with skin conditions. But I find that emotionally, sadness and grief is a big factor for this. The lung is how we take in breath, how we take in vitality and life into our body. When we are stressed and running around, our breathing often shortens. So how do we be mindful of our breath and really be present in that? And then the last yin organ is the kidneys. One of my mentors used to say, kidneys are king, in the sense that the kidneys are so important in Chinese medicine because this is the root of life. This is where we, are born into life with sort of like, a pile of gold, inherited from our parents and our ancestors, our jing. And through life, we spend this, pile until we die. And if we spend it faster, from running around in the modern lifestyle, then, our demise is faster. So how can we preserve our kidney jing? How can we preserve our qi? By making sure that we are resting enough. And, adrenal fatigue is a big thing now. And oftentimes the prescription is to sleep. Like how do we just sleep more hours? When you sleep, do you wake up feeling rested? Right? Some people, they say, I sleep 6-7 hours. But the question is, do you wake up feeling rested? And if not, then it would be beneficial to sleep more and help replenish your body.
Makes a lot of sense. So yeah, you got the liver, heart, spleen, lungs, and kidneys. For those of you, listening, like take that and rewind it and play it back and see what Ivy is saying there. That's some powerful stuff. And fellas, I got you. This is more focused right now. We're talking about fertility for women, but I do have another show coming up, and then also a past show where we go a little bit in for men about that jing and that pile of gold, how you can hold on to some of that, so that you won't burn yourself out as men. So I got you on that. Wow, and adrenal fatigue and insomnia, or like what I like to call yinsomnia, hormonal imbalance, and hypo and hyper thyroidism. These are common things that are going on for a lot of people. I noticed on your Instagram, your IG, that you have the water element quite a bit. So I'd like to talk a little bit about Wu Wei and how you see that connecting to women's health, like just kind of flow with that one, if you will.
Sure. Wu Wei is a Taoist concept. I grew up with a lot of Taoists in my family. So, with my father, every time I talked to him, he would, basically respond with the Taoist quote. And Wu Wei is one of those concepts of, roughly translated as going with the flow. When you think of water is soft. You know, if you pour water into your hand, it just completely melts off your hand. Yet if you look at the mountains and the pathways that the water has created through the mountains, you know, water over time has permeated through rock and, you know, carved out, you know, rivers and streams through the rock. So, you know, even though it's soft, it can be very strong. So Wu-Wei is this, you know, this notion of tuning into the flow, you know, what is the natural flow of things and what is the right timing. I think in American culture, we're very ambitious, you know, we are, you know, tuned into our individual power of, you know, creating ourselves and creating our life. And, you know, sometimes it can be too aggressive or too forceful, and then therefore deplete us. And so there is wisdom of tuning into, okay, what is the natural current of things? Where are things flowing? You know, what is the right timing to do things in a way to still have the results that we want, but be able to preserve our energy in the process. And at the same time, have an openness where we can see opportunities where perhaps we might not have if we were so fixated on going a certain way. So this concept of Wu-Wei can be applied for a lot of situations, a lot of settings. But basically, how do you go more with the flow?
Love it. And it's pronounced Wu-Wei then. Wu-Wei.
Wu-Wei, yeah.
Wu-Wei.
Yeah.
Got it. Wow. That's a very powerful concept and everything, especially in today's world where, and I remember one of the 3 Qigong masters that I learned from, he said that as it pertains to men, but you could say the masculine energy in general, the yang energy in Western or, you know, industrialized societies is that there is this overemphasis on just get her done, you know, and he was like, but true people of power understand to rest in their feminine energy and to use that other energy, the yang or masculine energy at very succinctly, you know, and then go back into rest mode, you know. So in other words, inspired action, you kind of take in, you use the feminine powers of intuition and magnetism and magnetizing opportunities to you, you know, in collaboration. These are some of the things that I took off your page or your Instagram. And we use those feminine traits or whatever, and then at just the right point, you use the power of the other energy to close things down, as opposed to like burning ourselves to make things happen, you know. So very cool point. I love the Wu-Wei concept, and thankful to your grandfather for that.
Yes, because when we think about Chinese medicine or Taoism, there are no absolutes. You know, everything is in relation, everything is in balance and harmony, and depending on the situation. You know, that oftentimes when people, you know, when I hear my colleagues first learning about Chinese medicine, they get frustrated because there's no, like, absolute answer. But that is part of the art, you know, of knowing that, you know, for example, all of us, no matter what gender we identify with, we have feminine and masculine within us, you know, and so how do we draw upon that full range of possibilities to apply to our life, you know? And in that way, we can really you know, see the most potential arise, you know, from what we're doing. Yeah.
Totally. Makes sense. Wow. I was trying to find the quote that I had seen on your page I was going to ask you about. Oh, here we go. By Thich Nhat Hanh. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Is that right? Thich Nhat Hanh?
Oh, yes. He's a Tibetan Buddhist teacher.
Okay. I love the quote that you had up there. So it was, deep listening is the kind of listening that can help relieve the suffering of another person. You can call it compassionate. You listen with only one purpose, to help him or her to empty the heart. So now that's talking about listening to another. What I want to talk to you, though, about is about us listening to ourselves. What are some of the things that we can do, because we're already almost at the closing point on this. What are some of the things that a person can do, like, okay, all of this sounds good, but how do I listen better to myself? What are some of the listening cues?
I mean, to begin with, I think it's important to develop an awareness of your thoughts. You know, what are the thoughts that are going on around in your head? You know, and are they aligned? Are they helping, you know, where you want to be, what your intention is? You know, like I think with fertility, especially with the rise of infertility in these times, you know, there can be a lot of negative or pessimistic thinking. And I think having a positive mindset is really key, because we really do create our reality. We create our life. So what are the thoughts that we're thinking? You know, what are the stories that we tell about ourselves and what is happening around us? You know, listening to our thoughts in those ways, you know, is very important. Because once we have that clarity in our mind, then our intuition can come through. Then the guidance from spirit can come through. But first we have to clear the chatter. We have to, you know, be able to separate the thoughts that are not serving, you know, our higher self, not serving our intention and, you know, our purpose.
That makes sense. Wow. Yeah, if we have too much noise, we can't hear other ways of our awareness can't be brought to other options. You know, if a lot of times we may fall into certain patterns, so that makes a lot of sense. Well, you know,
right.
You know, this is a conversation that could keep going. You know, because it's very interesting. I think very helpful out there for the family. But we are on time now, so I want to leave, like I said in the beginning, enough time for you to tell us more about, you know, whatever projects or things you may have coming up and how people can get more information if they want. So the floor is yours, and any last little nuggets you want to leave us as well.
Sure. Well, my practice is based in Oakland, California. It's called Lumine Wellness. So if you're in the Bay Area, come on by. And you can stay connected with me through Instagram, Lumine Wellness, or my website. You can sign up for my newsletter as well. It's www.luminewellness.com. And I'm, you know, so happy to hear from any of you and, you know, answer your questions or hear your thoughts on things. Happy to be part of this community.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we definitely appreciate you on this. This is definitely information that can, in all honesty, be very life-changing if it's taken in, you know, deep understanding and understand the treasures, the three treasures that have or more than three treasures on this podcast that have been shared. So if you take in what Ivy has been saying, you have some stuff there that can change your life. So again, Ivy, we thank you today.
Thank you so much.
No question. You're welcome. And again, family, we appreciate y'all. We send love and light out there to all of you. Again, this is Faux Show Holistic Health on Blog Talk Radio, and I'm your host, Shophar from Faux Show Energy Work. Y'all keep shining, keep climbing. Peace.